Tana Talk 4 was one of our most anticipated albums this year, and it's for a good reason. If you look at Benny the Butcher's quality within his albums, if you look at the way that he's able to structure these projects, you come to expect quality with every single one of his drops. And today, guys, we're going to be going through Tana Talk 4, his new album that just dropped. And guys, in the comment section, let me know how you're feeling about this album, because Lou and I are going to be going into this video. And not only that, but we're going to be having our final score for the album at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. And not only that, but we ended up doing our first live reaction to it with our Patreon members, a huge community stream where
it was awesome.
Dude, listen, it was one of the best first listens of the whole year so far, and one of my favorite reactions. So if you guys want to go catch that, the link is in the description to our Patreon plan. It was such a fun time, and thank you to everyone who came in. But let's dive into this, man. This was such a great listen off the bat. And how are you feeling, man? Like, going into the track list, like, were your expectations met? What were you expecting? Like, take me through it, man.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Going into Tana Talk 4, my expectations, I tried to go in with no expectations, but inevitably I had some, because I knew that Tana Talk 3 was viewed as the crown jewel of Benny the Butcher's catalog, and it's because of how much it meant to the underground hip-hop scene. And going into this, we had the lead single being Johnny P's Caddy, which is one of my favorite songs of the entire year. So I'm like, is Benny going to keep up this standard for all 12 songs? And then he drops the track list. I see that he's working with some of the regulars. He's working with Boldy James, Conway the Machine, Westside Gunn, 38 Special, and so many of his previous collaborators that he's always had a great chemistry with. So my question with Tana Talk 4 was, are we going to get that same dark and grimy presence that the production gave us and Benny's delivery gave us? Or are we going to get that, but an upgraded version? And I feel like Benny really evolved on this album, especially when you look at what he's taking you through in terms of the personal anecdotes, not only about what he experienced in the street, but also now how he's advancing in his career, getting these multi-million deals. And it just feels like there's been a lot of growth with Benny, and I feel like he's challenging himself on this project. So let me ask you this. What do you think he did here to step it up?
Oh, definitely the perspective within this album is beautiful to see, especially with his writing. Like, he's going to be experimenting with so many different types of flows here as well that you would not get on previous albums, and that's what I found cool as well. And you're obviously going to get his more traditional stuff and stuff that, you've come to see on albums like Burden of Proof or maybe even Tana Talk 3, but this felt like an upgraded version because of what you said. This is him looking through a new lens right now. This is him looking through something that is super realistic, and that's what I feel as if Tana Talk 3 meant to him, is just a super raw, super genuine, looking through it through a realistic scope and understanding what's in front of you. But now what's interesting is that, Benny was in a completely different position in 2018, when he had dropped Tana Talk 3, and now you could see the lens that he's looking through in 2022. So
and the hunger is still there,
and
bro.
the hunger is still there, but I feel as if it's even upgraded at this point. So let's go through the track list, all right? I love the fact that it's literally only 40 minutes long, 12 tracks. That is a perfect length for a track list. And I also love how Benny is taking you through these anecdotes throughout the whole album, but they sound refreshing every time because he's linking up with some of his best collaborators for production. Example, Derringer, Beat Butcher, the Uncle Lau having 8 out of 12 productions on this. It was so well matched. So what were your standouts as far as performances go on this track list? And take me maybe through some bars that you have for
I
us.
definitely have some crazy bars because the punchlines were really hitting from Benny. So for example, on Billy Joe, he raps, "I treat my city like Monopoly sitting on Park Place. The engine in the shit I'm whipping is fit for a car chase." So of course he's talking about how he feels like he's moving around and doing these crazy purchases like it's a fucking Monopoly board. And then he has the bar about the engine in the shit, talking about his car. But that also relates to, I would say, the Monopoly board as well, because there's the car object that you could place onto the board. And that was really dope bar. Another one comes on Bust a Brick Nick, where he raps, "The cops watch me get an M on TV like I'm Carson Daly." And they watch me get an M on TV. Carson Daly was a host for MTV back in the day. So that was pretty cool to get that double entendre. But what about you? Did any bars stick out for you?
Absolutely. Let me dive into Back Two Times, and this was fantastic. All right, I was on Montana with White, Arm and Hammer with Ice, connected like Joe Montana and Rice, obviously referencing the 49ers, and that was fantastic because there's other sports bars in here. But what I loved about Benny here is that he seemed comfortable, like he seemed like there was so much confidence oozing out of his lyricism, and that's what really made it for me, is that there was not a single time where I was going through the writing on this album and I was like, okay, this could have been different or this could have been different. But another thing that I found he really did well at was the chemistry with his counterparts on the features. Like
38 Special.
Dude, that was ridiculous, because if you go actually look, I believe it was called, it's Uncle Bun. Yeah, that's correct. If you look at the way that all of those verses are structured, dude, they almost matched a similar line count, and it's super consistent all the way through. Not only that, but on something like Bust a Brick Nick, you're getting one full verse from him for literally, I think, what is it, like almost 3 minutes, the song? So there's also those types of like performances where I'm like, he is taking this to another level. But let's talk about the features, all right?
Who had the best feature? I want to start off
You
there.
want to start off like that? I have to give it the 38 Special. I'm dead serious. Like, that was definitely one of the best features on this album, and I think it's my favorite feature of the whole year so far, just because of how the chemistry oozes out of him with, Benny, and how they're
You already
able to
know I'm
link
mad
up.
at that take, bro.
Why? What are you saying with
J.
this?
Cole. Come on. J. Cole on Johnny P's Caddy. That's one of the most impressive lyrical feats of his entire career. I get the chemistry was awesome.
You know what? I'm
on
not
the
gonna lie to you.
38
I'm not gonna lie to you.
song.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, because I kind of forgot about Johnny P's Caddy like right off the bat, like
Yeah, I feel
because
you.
like we've had the song for a minute now.
Yeah.
So out of the new features that we've heard on the album, I'll say 38 Special, but definitely J. Cole had verse of the whole album.
Eureka, Einstein on the brink of the theory of relativity. Really, no MC equal. I mean, the double entendres that he's spitting out here remind me why I love hip hop, and bars like while you guys are relying on guns and drug bars, I'm trying to revive a sport that's dying. Like, J. Cole showed people what it's like to be competitive again, and he's claiming to be the greatest of all time on this song, and everything that he oozes, all the confidence, all of the knowledge is flawless. And to me, it's one of Cole's best verses ever, and it's the best verse on the album for me. Despite Benny killing it on every single song, this was that moment that made me kind of go back in my seat and be like, holy fuck.
Yeah, this is crazy, and especially the way that this song was opening up the album. And what I loved about this J. Cole verse too is how he opened up the verse, because it kind of takes you into this like movie setting. You have sparks flying everywhere, thunderstorm. It feels like a big event is happening. It feels like you're watching a movie, and like J. Cole is kind of bringing and fishing you in throughout the whole verse, and it's bar after bar after bar, and you see he doesn't miss. So example, he start off like this: on the night I was born, the rain pouring, God was crying, lightning struck, power outage, sparks was flying, the real one's here, the young boy that walk with lions. Like, making his birth sound like an actual like world event. Like, that's what I love about this verse. But let's get into the rest of the features. Boldy James was massive for me, okay? Because I loved how this song sounds different than all of their other collaborations, because this was also a really nice break in the track list, because it's a bit more lighter in tempo. Like, it's not as dark as that 3-track run that you had gotten before. So what do you think Boldy James added to this, especially that they've collaborated before and they have awesome chemistry together?
Boldy killed it, bro. One of the most introspective verses on the entire album, and I love the fact that Boldy is getting super he's being very transparent with us, talking about how he's feeling betrayed by his own silhouette. He's feeling betrayed by this dark side to him where he's done things that he's kind of regretful of. So to see him being that open and honest with us was really refreshing. But someone else that I want to talk about here is Stove God Cooks, because I really feel like he's becoming the Nate Dogg of the coke rap scene, because every time he has a hook on one of these coke rap songs, he absolutely kills it. And he has this kind of unconventional singing, but always manages to make it work. And his verse was also really outstanding. And a top 3 feature off of the album for me.
Top
for
3
sure.
feature off of it. Yeah, I love Diddy on 10 More Commandments because I didn't necessarily want a full verse or something, but the knowledge that he was spitting at the end of the verse was crazy because it ties in the whole concept to the song. Because if you guys go through 10 More Commandments, it's obviously the follow up to the 10 Crack Commandments that was done by Biggie. And what's cool is that Benny the Butcher, formed it in a way where he's taking you from 20 to 11 now. So it's kind of like, I would say, the after effect of what's happening. But now, instead of talking about it in the perspective of maybe a coke dealer in the 90s, he's talking about it in a modern way where he's talking about, staying off of social media and, maybe looking at different things around your life. And that's what I love about it. But Diddy comes in at the end of the track and is like, talking about how, now we can move on to better things. Now we could go on to excellence, and now we could really strive for that sort of game. And
steer away from a life of crime, which
Exactly.
is a really interesting take. And it just, to me, Benny gave us the upgraded manual after, 20 plus years. Well, not 20 plus years, 94, 04, 14. Yeah, 20 plus years. So it's amazing to see what he was able to do there and how he expanded upon this classic Biggie song. And he paid homage the right way. I'll be honest with you. I thought there was going to be a lot of pressure to live up to with a song title like that. But what's interesting about that song too is that song and a lot of the other song structures really showcases Benny's endurance as an MC, because he's spitting a full verse that goes on for like 2 minutes without any breaks, without any stumbles. And
it sounds great.
Bro, how do you have that much of a stretch without, again, any stumbles? So to see him have that kind of endurance was really refreshing to me. But one thing we have to speak about on this album is the production, because going into this, we knew that we were going to have Derringer, The Alchemist, and Beat Butcher be at the helm of it. And how did you feel about that? Because I did like the glamorous and triumphant sound of Burden of Proof. I also liked the unconventional samples that Harry Fraud brought on for the Plugs I Met too. But knowing that we were going to return to this sinister and dark atmosphere that these producers brought on Tana Talk 3 into Tana Talk 4, that had me fucking excited. So how did you feel about this approach?
Oh, it was so well done. It was really well done, and we were talking about it in the Patreon reaction with our crew tier members. We were like, "Yo, like this album is cinematic in approach," and you're gonna see that, especially on songs like, let's say, Tyson versus Ali, and also Guerrero, which do have West Side Gun and then Conway on Tyson versus Ali. Like, I love how The Alchemist or Derringer or even Primo, like, everyone set the stage for these rappers to come through and deliver super ridiculous verses. But I'm gonna take you through some standouts on the production for me. So Super Plug,
that's the best beat on
that
here.
is the best production, and we're wearing mixing headphones right now. And when you're listening through them, when you're gonna listen to this production in your mixing headphones, you're gonna realize how fucking crazy all these piano keys actually play into the production. It's super trippy and it's beautiful. Johnny P's Caddy. Dude, I never knew I needed Uncle Lal and J. Cole to link up, but that vocal sample adds so much to this project because, yes, you're going to get your darker tracks, like Back 2 Times, Super Plug, 10 More Commandments was definitely darker, but you have your light spots within the track list that is unconventional when you look at it from a Tana Talk 3 perspective, but is now refreshing and upgraded when I want to look at it the new perspective and this new upgrade from it. So how did you like that? Because it's not as dark as Tana Talk 3, but I feel as if it's grown, like it has more of a developed sound than maybe Tana Talk 3
I
has.
totally agree with that take. I feel like it is more developed because I do appreciate Tana Talk 3 because it really showed you that grit. Like, it was just so engulfed in this bloody and grimy type of sound. And you kind of have a lot of similar elements in terms of having these boom bap drum patterns. You also have these dusty sounding instrumentals where you'll have a vocal sample that plays on loop. You'll have this vintage feel. And honestly, shout out to The Alchemist because his sample selection never ceases to fucking amaze me. I don't know where he goes out to find these old tracks and flip them the way that he does, but shout out to him. And again, I just love how diverse the sonic palette was here because not only are you getting those grimy beats, but you're also getting tracks like Thoe's Revenge where it's more triumphant. You have these glorious trumpets that are ringing off throughout the song, and that gives you more of a victory lap type of feel for Benny on that song. So I appreciated that. I also liked Mr. Chow Hall as another standout because you have this Oregon synth that reminds you of something very mysterious in tone, similar to a beat that you would have gotten from The Alchemist on a project like Fetty, from Freddie Gibbs and Currency. So it was just cool to see them diversify and, like you said, take it up a notch. And maybe it's not as, I don't want to use the word coherent because it's still coherent, but it's not as focused in terms of one type of sound, but they broke off and explored more, I would say.
That's true, and especially within the sample production and the types of landscapes that Benny's going to be able to rap on. Because one issue maybe I have with a lot of albums, like especially when it comes to, let's say, sequels or, follow-ups, is that they just try to replicate the old sound and they try to do it again. Like, this was not the case with Tana Talk 4. This sounded upgraded. Then, example, you had talked about Toei's Revenge. That was the perfect example of this, because you're going to see this quick and super developed flow that Benny's able to use here, just because Uncle Al's production was so well done and had this Triumphant sound that was super quick and that had a quicker pace to it. And you don't necessarily see that often, especially within, let's say, Griselda branded projects. And that's what I love about the whole soundscape, is that it's super diverse, it's unique. The sample choices were fantastic. But I have to ask you, what was the song that it sounded like almost like was it on Guerrero, where it was like almost like like an electronic psychedelic sound that you were hearing? What song was that?
Yeah, I believe that was. Yeah, it was.
So you see, like, you have a sound like that, and then you have a sound, let's say, like Weekends in the Paris, where it's super laid back, it's super breezy. Like, there's gonna be highs and low points throughout the production of the album, and I think that's what it keeps it entertaining. But I want to talk to you about this too. The pacing on the album is fucking immaculate. Like, we were going through that reaction and like
it flew by.
Like, and that's what I think is so good about this album, is it's coherent, it's tight as a track list. So how does that add in maybe to the replay value in the future? And do you think you've received some of Benny the Butcher's best material in years on this new project?
I mean, it's so tough to say, because when you look at Tana Talk 3, The Plugs I Met, Burden of Proof, Pyrex, Picasso, like, Benny's track record is pretty much fucking flawless. So to say and comment on how it's going to compare to the rest of his catalog, it's too early to say. But this is an amazing addition to the Tana Talk series, which has always been a very personal series for Benny, and he doesn't shy away from that, going into themes about the shooting that transpired where he got hurt in Houston, going into these old anecdotes about how he was hiding packages of drugs in his dad's couch underneath the mattress, all of that kind of stuff where you're really in awe. And I just feel like, in terms of the replay value, only 12 songs, 40 minutes, a breeze of a listen, because you're getting so much game. And I think that's why I'm going to revisit it so much, is because I know that there's so many bars that flew over my head. I want to see how all of the songs connect to the bigger theme that's present within the project. So I think it's going to be one of my most played albums of the entire year, but we have to give this a final rating, man. So how do you think this is going to stick into your rotation, and what are your thoughts on it overall?
All right, so let's get into this. So how do I think this is going to stick in my rotation? It's going to be one of my most played albums of the year, and I feel as if it's going to be one that's going to stick throughout the year, because this is a similar, like, I have a better feeling than I did when I first listened to Burden of Proof, and Burden of Proof was one of my most played albums of 2020, and like, I'm a big fan of Benny the Butcher's work. I think he's fantastic. I love what he's able to do on an album, and there's so many songs I gotta go back to. Back Two Times, Super Plug, Weekends in the Paris. Not only that, but there's different songs for different settings in this album. Example, Weekend in the Paris, or let's say something like Tyson versus Ali, like, those are not necessarily songs that have this super grimy and dark tempo to it that you'll be able to play in, settings that maybe are with other people and different things. And then you get that classic Tana Talk sort of feel within songs like Back Two Times and Super Plug that I'm going to want to revisit. You're going to get triumphant sounds on songs like Toei's Revenge. You're going to get so much within a short track list. So that's why I think I'm going to listen to it so much. And honestly, like, when you look at the production, when you look at what Benny did on here, when you look at the chemistry with the features, the track list, it knocks everything out of the park. And honestly, like, I had a very hard time finding gripes with this listen. So I think the overall rating from us it has to be amazing.
It is amazing.
It was an amazing listen, and you guys are going to have so much fun going through this album, especially if you guys are into this type of rap. And if you guys aren't, for anyone that's watching this, please give this a chance. I mean, it's quality. This is what hip hop is supposed to be, and I've been waiting for an album like this year. And this is gonna go head to head with me for Few Good Things at this point. That's at least my opinion right now.
Absolutely. And I just feel like what Benny the Butcher does here is give us storytelling, give us amazing flow switches, and also I love the fact that he has different approaches for different types of songs, because you have some tracks where his flow is slowed down, he's being more patient and self-reflective and more delicate, you could say, but then you get those more aggressive tracks where you get those cold deliveries that you were missing from, not that you were missing from, but that you loved on Tana Talk 3. And I just love that, like he said on Tana Talk 3, everything relates back to drug dealing in terms of the metaphors and the types of bars that you're getting on this album, but he's giving you more than just what he's cooking in the kitchen. And I feel like by the end of a lot of these songs, you almost feel like you're being initiated by his crew in Buffalo. You feel like you've been given so much game and so much personal anecdotes that you're being placed into that life, and you're, kind of imagining yourself being side by side with him because of how he's painting these pictures with his words. And I just think that he evolved as a rapper. I think that with this project, Benny the Butcher put out one of the best mafioso rap albums that I've heard in a very long time. And he's giving, Pusha T, Freddie Gibbs, and everybody else who's in this pocket a run for their money in 2022. Production was sensational from The Alchemist, Derringer, and B Butcher. They all brought back this vintage 90s sound that, a lot of us fell in love with and still do have a big passion for. So at the end of the day, guys, this is a strong album of the year contender, and Benny can do no wrong. To me, he's one of the best active rappers in the game, and this solidified it.
Oh, for sure. This is going to be an album of the year contender 1,000%. But guys, that's our full thoughts on Tana Talk 4 for now. So as I said at the beginning of this episode, let me know how you feel about this album. Like, let us know, like, maybe what we're missing, or if we misjudged something, whatever it is, drop it in the comments. And as I've been mentioning throughout this whole video, we are doing these live album reactions with our Patreon members on our Patreon plan. So if you guys want to go check that out, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for coming in tonight, and we'll catch you on the next one.